Is it possible to tap for weight loss? We're going to talk about that coming up next. Hi, my name is Combies. I'm a stress management consultant and transformational coach, and I believe in a less is more approach to personal development. So today in this video, what I want to talk about is tapping for weight loss. You know, this was a very popular subject years ago, and one of the things that I want to address right off the bat, first of all, is kind of a disclaimer. I'm not a medical expert, I'm not licensed in the medical field, I'm not a dietitian, I'm a coach, and my whole perspective is one of mindset. You know, I take a less is more approach to clarity, to more clarity in life. You know, for me, I sort of hang my hat on this notion that when we have a busier mind, we have less clarity. And when there's more clarity, we have less in our mind. And it's not to say that we can't perform with a lot of stuff on our mind, but our experience of that performance tends to be a lot more clear when we are aware of that correlation. And so when talking about something like weight loss, it's no secret the diet industry has sort of made its coin on this sort of push button approach, right? Take this pill and you'll be skinny. Follow this diet, it'll be the answer to your prayers, right? Do this exercise program and you'll have six-pack abs, right? So this is all tactics. It's all to obviously sell these programs. And you know, it's business, right? That's kind of capitalism 101 and marketing 101. So what I want to take a look at is a realistic approach to using a tool like tapping, because I believe it does help, and it can be a great tool to help you become more mindful and to help lower your stress. Because let's take a look at what does the medical community say is the cause of being overweight, right? Well, first and foremost, obviously, it's overeating, right? It's eating more calories than you burn in a day. They say it's high caloric processed foods. You know, a lot of the sugary foods and things like that you would find in the grocery store today. Fast foods, etc. They say that lack of sleep can cause weight gain, and high cortisol levels correlate with someone who is overweight. And so what do these things have in common? Well, first of all, if we take a look at stress and what is stress, someone who is stressed out is probably not sleeping very well. Someone who is stressed out has a lower immune system. And in fact, there's been quite a few studies with EFT in general, comparing EFT to other therapies, using EFT specifically for weight loss, using EFT for stress-related ailments like post-traumatic stress syndrome. These studies all point to the correlation of less stress and weight loss. And so I think it's important to start with taking a look at what is stress. What is stress? It's very common for most of us to sort of point outside of ourselves and say, losing my job is stressful, moving is stressful, giving this talk, you know, is public speaking, that's stressful. And so we look at these things outside of us. We look at these things, these actions that we have to do, or these things that we're going to be doing in the future, or we look at our circumstances and we say, these things cause me stress. Now, it may look that way, but the truth of the matter is, stress is an internal job. You would not know something was stressful if you didn't feel it inside. But that thing out there is not injecting stress hormones into you. You are in fact creating images and pictures in your mind and saying words to yourself, and your body is reflecting those images and those words by producing stress hormones, right? Now, of course, this works the same way. Maybe you're thinking about something very pleasant. You will feel the corresponding feelings, resulting in fixating on a pleasant memory, let's say, right? And so stress, prolonged stress, can wreak havoc on the body, because what is stress? It's the fight or flight hormone, the fight or flight or freeze response, right? And so as we're continuing to have stressful thoughts and we're continuing to flood the body with those hormones and chemicals, what's happening is the body begins to eventually break down. The immune system gets lowered, the cortisol levels continue to spike, and we don't process, our digestive system begins to not work as well. And so all of these things add up, and of course the result can be weight gain. Now the other factor is, if we don't understand that stress is coming from outside of us, what we tend to do is look for things outside of us to numb that stress out, or escape the stress, or distract ourselves from our stressful thinking. Now, as a caveat, I will say that physical activity can be stressful, obviously. If I'm, lifting weights, I'm putting stress onto my body, and that is physical stress. If I'm working really hard, I'm working long hours, that is physical stress on the body. What we're really talking about here is the stress that most of us feel on a day-to-day basis. Now you might say, I'm at work, Alan. I'm at work and I've got people, pulling me in every direction. That's stressful. Think about this for yourself. You may have had a situation where one day you had the same things coming at you, you had the same responsibilities, you had all this stuff happening, and you were just sailing through the day. You were just handling everything and everything was good. And then the next day, the same things, the same job, the same responsibilities, but you were stressed out of your mind. What's the difference? What's the deal? Well, the deal is how you think about your circumstances determines your experience. And so one of the things that we tend to do, again, is look for ways to cope with that stress, because we don't see in those moments that it's our thoughts that are creating the feelings that's creating the stress response. And so because we don't see that it's our thoughts, we look to something to distract us. We look to something to numb us out. We look to something to alleviate the stress. And thank goodness for these things, because sometimes we get so stressed out, we get so caught up in stressful thoughts and feelings that without a drink or without food or something to distract us, we would go crazy, right? So I know I'm going on about this, but my point, if I was to have you really see one thing, it's that stress is an internal production. It's something that happens from the inside out. And when we see that, and we recognize that, we can become curious. We can become more curious as to what's really going on. And in those moments, we can find clarity. We can see that, but for our thinking in the moment, we're actually okay. If I'm thinking about something that happened yesterday and it's stressing me out, well, I can have the realization that, but for that thought, I'm okay. I could be having financial troubles. As long as I'm thinking about having financial troubles, am I going to find a solution, or am I just going to keep thinking about my troubles and keep feeling the stress? You see? And so this is, to me, one of the roots of weight gain. It's having a difficult time managing stress, and it's turning to food, and it's eating food without mindfulness, and it's our metabolism slowing down as a result of all of the stress. And so there's really two things I want to focus on for that video when it comes to tapping, and that's the big one. Okay, so stress is the big one. Taking a look at all the things that correlate with weight gain, which is cortisol, low metabolism, even hypothyroidism, which is when the thyroid either doesn't produce enough chemicals or overproduces. I can't remember which one. That's been proven to show sudden weight gain and things like that. Now, what causes the thyroid to malfunction? It's an autoimmune disease. What does that mean? Well, your immune system is not functioning properly. Well, in my book, when the immune system isn't functioning properly, it very well likely, it could definitely be a stress-related issue. And so one of the ways that we can look at losing weight in particular is by addressing our stress. One of my favorite ways to do this is, in fact, with tapping. Now, I don't really use tapping in the traditional way where it's an even though statement. Sometimes I do, but I like a less is more approach. I like a straight line approach. And so if I know that stress is being created by thought in the moment, right, and nothing else, then it behooves me to just sort of pause for a moment whenever I feel stress and ponder that and take a look at that. And if I wake up to the thoughts that are creating those feelings and just ask myself, why am I resisting this? Why am I fighting against this feeling? Why do I want to numb it out? Why do I want to push it down? Because most of the time, those feelings are an expression of something that you have not processed yet. There's something that you don't want to look at. And so by resisting it, we end up constantly sort of ruminating on it. And so if we can step back and take a look at that and ask ourselves, well, why am I resisting this? And typically, the reason we're resisting it is because we have formed some sort of belief about ourselves as a result of that thought. As an example, well, let's use the example. So recently, not too long ago, I was looking in the mirror and I was going on and on about my gut. I was like, like a little pot belly. And, I try to stay active. I try to stay fit at 51 at the time of this recording. And I was going on and on and on. And I was just going, I hate my belly. And I was really kind of going off on it. And Melody, my partner, said, stop being so mean. She's so sweet. She was, you're beautiful. Stop beating yourself up. And I heard her, but I didn't hear her until later. And I realized what I had been doing. I was condemning myself. Is that coming from a place of love, or is that actually creating more stress? Do you see? And so one of the things you could do is just stand and look in the mirror and look at your body and look at the places on your body that you've been condemning, and just call yourself out. Call it out in that moment and recognize that it's the thought, right? It's the thought that's creating that stress, and you can start right there. See, what you're doing is you're calling out the very thing that you've been trying to resist. I don't like my belly. I think I'm fat. I don't like my belly. Whatever it is, right? You're calling it out. So you're not pushing it away. You're not arguing with it. You're just being present with what is and what you are feeling in that moment. And as you begin to do this, the tapping, so the reason for the tapping is because it sends a signal to the amygdala and the nervous system to begin to relax. And as you begin to relax, you begin to realize that there's more to the world, there's more to your experience than just that very narrow viewpoint, if that makes sense. So this is just one way that you can begin to use tapping. The other way is to really tune into your body on sort of a regular basis and notice what you're feeling in any given moment. Now, one of the ways I like to do this is to use a meditation. And it's nothing fancy. In fact, if you've tried meditation and you're going, yeah, it's not for me, I don't like meditation, my mind is racing and I just can't slow my mind down, I definitely recommend this to you if that's you, because that's me. My mind goes haywire when I sit down, but it's a good thing. And here's why. What you can do is sit down, close your eyes, and just kind of go inside and notice what comes up. And invariably, you'll have thoughts that will come up that will create uncomfortable feelings. When those show up, pause, let them be there, get curious, and call them out and just name them. So you might just say, you might have a thought of, botching a presentation or something at work, right? And so you might say, oh, man, I really fell on my face on that presentation. I really botched that one. I really screwed that presentation up. I screwed that up. Take a deep breath, blow it out. And what you're doing is not fighting the feeling as it comes up. You see, many of us have been innocently conditioned when we were young that it's not okay to feel our emotions, and that emotions are somehow letting us know that we're bad, that we're not worthy, that we're broken somehow. I mean, just think about how we raise kids, how many people have raised kids, or maybe how you were raised, is if we emote, if we have a tantrum, if we get upset and we cry, it makes those around us uncomfortable, and so they tell us to shut up, don't cry, go sit in the corner, be a big boy, be a big girl, whatever it might be. And so because we are taught that it's not okay, it's not safe to emote, we end up growing up as adults and still feeling that same way, taking on that belief. And so when I think about a presentation that I botched and it makes me, and I go, oh, I screwed that up, I don't want to feel that, because it means that I'm broken or bad, or somehow I'm not supposed to feel bad, right? I'm not supposed to feel those uncomfortable feelings. I'm supposed to be positive 100% of the time. Bullshit. Feel those feelings. What those feelings are there for, they just want to be processed. They just want to be processed. And if we allow ourselves to actually feel it and tap and call it out, name it, be honest with yourself. I botched that proposal. I feel really stupid. I botched that proposal. I feel dumb. I feel like I'm not smart enough. I feel like I could have done better, whatever it is. Take a deep breath, blow it out. And what you're doing is you're calming the nervous system, and you're letting your nervous system know that it's okay, because those thoughts are there for you to learn. They're not there to tell you you're bad or broken or not worthy or not deserving or not talented enough or any of that stuff. They're just there for you to learn. So if we can stop taking those things so personally, which can be difficult because of our conditioning, but if we can stop taking them so personally, we can begin to allow our nervous system to catch up and to recalibrate and allow ourselves to move through those experiences. This is a big piece, because this often is what can lead to a prolonged feeling of stress in our body, and we can get so used to that stress that we don't even feel it. It just sort of happens without us realizing it, because we're so used to having a baseline of stress. And so using the meditation to sit and go inside and see what comes up and just gently call it out and tap your way through it can be a powerful exercise in beginning to lower your stress. Lowering your stress will help you become more mindful when it comes to your eating. Think about it. If I'm stressed out and my stress level is a 6, 7, 8, or 9, and then I go to dinner and I have the choice of a nice healthy, say, fish dinner and a pile of pancakes, if my stress level is up here, what am I going to go for, right? I might go for the fish dinner, but I'm going to be going, oh man, I really want those fucking pancakes right now, oh God, right? Or I'll just go for the pancakes and I'll, because as our stress level goes up, as our mind gets busier, our intelligence goes down. We have less access to our intelligence. And so dealing with stress on a regular basis tips that scale, and we just become naturally able to make healthier choices, especially if living healthy and loving our body and wanting to be happy, healthy, strong is a priority for us. You'll begin to make different choices because you'll have more clarity. You'll have more clarity. Managing stress is definitely the big one of the two. The second way you can use tapping, or I should say the third way, so we've talked about looking in the mirror and tapping on your body parts. We've talked about handling stress on a regular basis. And the third way is to take a look at some of the foods that might be your sort of go-tos, maybe those foods that are your, we'll call it an addiction, right? One of the ways tapping has been very effective is with food cravings. And the way I like to use it is, if you think of a food that you would like to eat less of, this isn't about cutting out all foods, right? I believe you should have choice, you should have freedom, but I also believe that you should make those choices from a place of clarity as much as possible. One of the things you can do is take a look at what are the foods that I want to have more control over. Like, maybe you have a bag of Oreos and you think, I'm just going to have one Oreo, it's not going to hurt. And the next thing you know, you wake up and you've got crumbs all over your belly and you have an empty bag of Oreos, right? It's that kind of thing. So you can take a look at these foods and begin to get curious once again and recognize that in order to have a craving like that, we need to somehow talk ourselves into it. Now, admittedly, when it's a habit, when it's an addiction, that time frame of thinking about it and doing it is very short. And so what we're talking about doing here, again, is being mindful. As you tap on the stress, you're going to create a bigger and bigger space where you'll have more of an option to pause. But what we can look at are these foods and our process for going to these foods. So whether you realize it or not, you make up a picture in your mind when it's time to eat this food. Whether you realize it or not, you have mental words that you say to yourself, right? So you might say something like, oh, I'm actually kind of hungry now. Oh, I could really use something sweet. Oh, I have a sweet tooth. Yeah, I always have a sweet tooth. Yeah, nothing wrong with having a sweet tooth. Oh, Oreo cookie. Oh man, that soft, gooey frosting in the middle. Oh, the crunch in my mouth. Oh, and you can taste it in your mouth, and you can see it in your mind's eye. And next thing you know, you've eaten the whole bag, right? And so what we can do is begin to take a look at those pictures and those words, and once again, just call it out and say, oh, those pictures, the creamy frosting, the chocolate crunch, the textures, the sweet tooth, whatever it is, right? And again, what you're doing is, in this case, is you're using the EFT as an intervention. So in something that happened very quickly and very automatically, you're now intervening with that mental and emotional process. And so the idea here is you're slowing that process down by using the tapping. And as you begin to interrupt that process, its emotional hold on you becomes less and less. Now, if you combine that with the stress tapping, taking a look at what's going through your body in any given moment, or even just recognizing that you've got a craving for something like that, and then just taking a moment to pause and just say, this craving. You can think of this as a form of mindfulness when it comes to eating. There's that whole movement and idea that, to take the time, they call it mindful eating, right? Taking time to think about what you're putting in your mouth and what you're eating and why you're eating it. Are you actually hungry? Checking in with yourself. Well, this is kind of a form of that. But really, the biggest thing here, I think, is taking a look at what's your inner workings, what's your inner process, what are you saying to yourself, what are the pictures you're making in your mind, and addressing it with the tapping. So, is tapping a one and done quick fix? No, that's marketing bullshit, right? But can tapping help you lose weight? Yes. Well, I'm here to tell you, yeah. I mean, it helped me. Listen, I used to drink a lot. Drinking was my sort of, my go-to as far as handling stress and anxiety and everything else. And of course, when you drink a lot, your food choices, what you eat, tends to, be pretty poor. Not to mention all the calories from the alcohol. And then, of course, when you're hungover, you just want to, binge a bunch of food and grease to soak up all of that alcohol in the system. And so when I began the journey of really turning inward and using tools like tapping to address the stress in my life and to really get curious and to ground myself in the reality of the truth, which is, I am not my thoughts. I am not my thinking. Yes, they are a part of me, but they are an expression of me, and I am the one witnessing the expression. I am the one witnessing the thoughts, witnessing my body. And so if I can begin to see that at a deeper, deeper level and just make peace with what shows up, allow those things to move through me and process, stress goes down and weight loss becomes natural. It becomes natural. You begin making natural choices that feel natural. Choices like wanting to go for a walk more often. Choices like choosing an exercise program that suits you. Choices like eating at home more often versus going out and eating in restaurants. Choices of eating more whole foods, right, versus processed foods. Drinking more water, whatever it might be. Fasting, all of these things, right? Whatever you choose to do, it comes from a place of more and more clarity. And that's what I want for you, is more and more clarity. I hope this video helps. I hope it makes sense. I should mention that I love talking with people in person, so if you would like to schedule a free 30-minute consultation, there should be a link in the description of this video. No obligation, obviously. I love speaking with people, but if at the end of our call you decide that you would like to work together, we can discuss ways to approach that. As always, if you did enjoy this video and you did get something out of it, I would love to hear about it in the comments, and make sure you give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so I can continue to put out videos like this that I hope are helpful. Until next time, this is Alan Combies, transformational coach, stress management consultant. This is Morning Coffee with Alan. We'll see you in the next one.